Oh man, oh man, oh man. And you know what? We also have to go over something else too, because the people they want us to be somewhat critical, even though it's preseason. But we'll figure something out, man.
Well, critical, schmitical, whatever.
But hey, let's jump right into this thing, man. What up, though, people? It's your boy Brandon Dent, aka Detroit Kool-Aid, and you're rocking out with the Woodward Pistons podcast on the Woodward Sports Network. Now, you guys already know we got to get the legend drum rolled in here. So, if you guys want to help me out at home, definitely go on ahead. Hey, yo! Welcome and shout out to the legend Detroit News Rod Beard. Brother, how are you doing on this wonderful Wednesday morning?
Wonderful Wednesday, man. I just feel good. It's doesn't feel like it's a Wednesday. It feels like it's like a Thursday or Friday, like we're toward the end of the week. So maybe that's good. Maybe that's not so good.
I don't know how to take that. I'm gonna take it as a good thing. Though. I feel like
Yeah.
Woodward Pistons, whether it was a Wednesday or Thursday, when you get this dose of just everything good that Woodward Pistons is, I think that it helps spur us on the rest of the week. Man, I feel so energized after these shows. So I hope the people do too. But Rod, before we get into some of these subjects, man, because I know you have to go soon, I want you to tell the people, man, what's on Rod's mind today. Rod's thoughts, man.
Real basketball is a week away. Real, not preseason. We just gonna throw some stuff against the wall. Real basketball is a week away, and I'm excited just to kind of see what the next level of this is, what the next phase of it is, in games that matter. Because you even in the Phoenix game and to a degree in the Oklahoma City game, you can't take a lot from that because it really doesn't matter. They're not going to play normal minutes. They're not going to play normal rotations. It's a lot of see what this guy has. And then some of it is just let's burn these minutes so we don't get our guys hurt. So I just want to see what this whole thing looks like when you take it out the oven and that macaroni is that cheese is popping, that butter is popping on the top of the macaroni. I want to see what that really looks like.
Yep, and you know what? I'm glad you said that because I had a lot of conversations with fans last night, man. They were like, "Yo, I wish I had your optimism," and I'm like, you know what? I don't know if it's necessarily optimism. Like when Troy Weaver and his organization starts to deviate away from the dish that they said they were making, like if they told me, "Listen, we're making potato salad and there's going to be no raisins in it," I'm cool. If they tell me, "Hey, we're making stuffing and there's no raisins in it," if that's what they tell me, cool. But if I look over there and I see a bag of raisins, bro, then is when I'm gonna say, wait a second, hold on now. You told us one thing, but now you're starting to change the recipe. And the one blip in the road, which they openly admitted, Troy Weaver told us after the draft of Asar and Marcus Sasser, he told us kind of in the media scrum, like, last year didn't go according to plan. Last year did kind of set us back just a little bit. And that where it put them was in a position where they wanted to see what Monty Williams could do with the squad before they just take any aspect of a sledgehammer or you know what I mean? Like, bro, we've had the macaroni and cheese where it probably has a little bit too much salt, a little bit too much this, a little bit too much that, because they're not testing it and tasting it throughout the process. Troy Weaver effectively is telling us, hey, look, I don't really want to add any more seasoning, any more salt, no paprika on the top. I don't want to add that just yet until I know how this aspect of the dish tastes. And I actually appreciate that approach, especially with how fragile this stuff is. So it's like, I get you, man. A week away from real basketball, Troy Weaver is starting to already kind of percolate. I know before the beginning of last season, he went and made that splash kind of for Bojan Bogdanovic. And now all of a sudden, the reports are starting to come out via Jake Fisher of Yahoo that the Pistons might actually be somewhat involved with the trade with Houston. Now we see Houston is trying to get rid of Pistons fans' favorite, KPJ, Kevin Porter Jr. They were all livid, bro, when Troy Weaver traded him for like 4 second-round picks, or the Pistons traded him for 4 second-round picks. And now Houston, who is I don't know what team, 2 or 3, they're like, hey, look, we're done with him. We're going to trade him to OKC, and OKC says he will never wear this uniform. So I think the Pistons made out pretty well in that regard.
And let me say this real quick, because people tripped when I said I had heard from some people around the league that the reason that KPJ had dropped so far is there were some red flags. And that was the terminology that they used.
Speak on it.
Red flags. the Pistons got a really good player, and they got him at 30. They traded him for some picks, and then traded the picks. So what would it? Maybe it's doing what OKC just did. You turn assets into better assets, and you can never have too many draft picks because OKC is doing a masterclass in
good.
We just go. What did they get for Victor Oladipo? For taking on his contract and now flipping his contract over to Houston
for a couple more picks too.
A couple more
that
picks.
Came over with KPJ. Yep.
A couple more picks. When you sit down to trade, to even talk about a trade, you need a war chest of draft picks to even have a conversation about it. And OKC can jump in any trade conversation they want to. They could jump in a KD. They could if there wasn't an actual LeBron conversation, they could jump into it because they have the assets to make it work. Any big superstar type player, they can jump in because, oh, you want 6 draft picks? Okay, we got 6 draft picks. What else? So, but the initial thing with KPJ, I got emails and tweets about why are they trading KPJ? He's a legit first round pick. Bro, if they're building a culture, that's not what you want here. You don't want a bad apple. And if the accusations are what they are, then it's at least a question about it, is that he's getting flipped around now from team to team because of those sorts of things. So on to your other point. If they're talking to Houston, looking at Houston's roster, who do you even want if you're the Pistons from that roster? I can't.
From the people that they're going to move, I have no idea, bro. They were talking about potentially flipping Victor Oladipo to us, and I don't know. Is he just? I don't know. I don't even know if that's something that I would even want to take a flyer on. But if the deal is expiring, if it takes a vet who they're trying to get something out of, I would assume they would at least try and coax some aspect of a draft pick out of Houston, even if it's just 1 second round and Victor Oladipo for Alec Burks, because that was the name that came up in that. And they're saying potentially maybe that's why Alec Burks has been in the starting lineup. You said this, bro, when the lineups were different. And you also talked about going into the regular season that maybe the Pistons are trying to showcase people for trades. We don't know. You even mentioned it about Bojan Bogdanovic. You told me this last year as well. You said, look, I would not be surprised if something happens right before the season, and then boom, Bojan Bogdanovic happened right before the season. So we know that Troy Weaver is busy. When we don't see him, when we don't hear from him, it's like that man's working the phone lines, bro.
That man is in the lab. He's in the lab doing some stuff.
Yep, and it's starting to kind of surface, man. It is, and so I wanted to be able to get on that really quickly, just to kind of let people know. I think that Troy Reaper season might be on its way back, man. But Monty Williams had some interesting things to say. Like, I know we covered the Jaden Ivey thing the last couple weeks, and I wanted to at least get your take on this. Play this clip of Monty Williams speaking on. I got to ask him the question of his assessment of how Jaden Ivey has kind of handled his responsibilities, including his new role. And I'll let you guys let Monty Williams answer that.
Including a new role through preseason.
It's too early to make like ironclad assessments, but he scored it in the first game and was getting to the basket. Last game he didn't shoot it as well, but he guarded the ball 80 feet. I've seen the ability, I've seen the potential. He's in a bit of all these guys are in new roles because they don't really know. I haven't declared a starting lineup or anything like that, so everybody's kind of thinking like, what's it gonna be? And we said going into it, we're gonna compete. We're not giving away minutes. And so I think that stress, I think it allows for guys to grow, and I do understand when you don't know with such a young team and a new group, I feel like it's important to figure out like who we are, and he's a part of that group. His role may be different, it could be the same, we just don't know yet.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. 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 Give me more of it.
Look, man.
Just copy paste that entire thing, because that's the mentality as a new coach that you want coming in to say nothing is guaranteed to you. Don't feel like because you were a top 5 pick that you have a position, a role, a starting position. None of that is guaranteed for you. And that's it's like when you're in high school or middle school and you have a substitute teacher. Sometimes they just come in and just put some work on the board or let you do whatever. And sometimes they come in with a specific plan and you hate it, but you get to do work. And that's what you want for your young guys, is to still do work and to still pretend like they have something to play for, even if they know they do. Like Cade's not playing for a starting spot. He knows what's up. Yeah. Duren probably. And you would think Stewart same way. But for Asar, there are some variations, and we talked about the variations. Asar could be a starting guy. Bogey could be a starting guy. Ivy could be, but don't feel like that is just given to you because it was the case last year. It's a new sheriff in town. His name is Reggie Hammond.
man, look, Rod, you in your bag this morning got me drinking the water with the pinky up.
There you go.
It's on fire, man, because when you hear Monty Williams speak, it's a little bit different. Like, I know that all the fans, they see what he's doing and they just react. When you hear him talk, the first thing I stated was he's going to develop and create a monster. Jaden Ivey is not emotionally weak, bro. Like, Jaden Ivey is not soft. You know what I'm saying? He just continues to show more and more maturity and continues to show growth in his game. And I don't see Jaden Ivey, at least to the couple preseason games, even at practice and such that we get to see, I don't see him as somebody downing his head, shaking his head, putting his head down. I don't see that. Last year, he had a little bit of that. This year, I don't really see it. You know, I got some clips of the guys that were shooting threes and everything. He had good stretches. He had some stretches that might not have been as good. But the one thing I saw was a Jaden Ivey that is like his mindset, his whole aura just seems to be about persistence. You know, and this, like, there's not any part of me that believes that Monty Williams went to Jaden Ivey and cast any doubt on who he believes Jaden Ivey can be as a player. Instead, you heard Monty Williams use that word that he used prior, stress. That was the very first time I got to talk to Monty Williams outside of the press conference for the draft and all that stuff. I mean, like with training camp, he stated, look, I'm going to stress. I'm going to push these guys, see what they're made of for real. That to me. And then in this clip, you heard, look, we're putting a little stress on these guys. Yeah, we want these guys to grow. Why? Because they got to grow fast. I know Monty Williams has this kind of long contract. I don't believe that means Monty Williams is here to just say, let's just, like you said, let me just be a substitute teacher this year.
Yep.
Not at all, man. Not at all, brother. I had one more clip. Do you have time for this other clip that he had?
Yeah, let's go. Let's do that one.
Dope. Yeah, he's talking about Cade Cunningham off-ball reps, bro. Let's see if it loads up here.
We did some today. Killian had it a lot, and Cade was coming off of it a little bit with live ball situations. I think he's really effective when he has a live ball. He can see the defense without having to be hounded up the floor.
Quick clip, but it is like, I think it's the stuff that some Pistons fans have actually been asking for. Not that they want to move Cade off the point guard role, but to be able to see him in a little bit more dynamic of a role. And I got to talk to some Phoenix fans, man. I'm going to try and get their handles and make sure that I give them some credit. But they stated that Devin Booker used to be super ISO heavy, almost like a point forward. And then when Monty Williams got there, he moved him off ball, gave him that quick offense, allowed his usage both ends of the court to kind of go down. He took him like, hey, we're going to let other people defend. He said that. We're glad that Asar Thompson can take these defensive duties. And then people like Asar Thompson and Killian Hayes can also bring the ball up the court, reducing not only the stress on Cade Cunningham, but putting him in a position, like he said, to be able to better see that defense. Like, usually you're putting your hound on whoever's bringing the ball up the court. That's generally Cade Cunningham. Now you're talking about bringing Cade Cunningham off of picks, off of screens, allowing him to pick which side of the court do I want to be on. Where is the big man at? That, to a cerebral, smart, knowledgeable player like Cade Cunningham and playmakers like Asar and Killian Hayes, that was music to my ears, especially the way that we saw Devin Booker flourish underneath Monty Williams. And we covered that, guys. Go back, I believe it's episode 82. We covered that with the Breakthrough documentary. Matt, what's going on in your mind when you hear Monty Williams talk about Cade Cunningham off ball, and he's gave Killian some more unprovoked love?
Well, on the Cade part, I think it's good because it lets him see the court and kind of see what stuff is running, but you got to get it to him, and he's got to react quickly because the defense is going to do the same thing. So it's just not him. It's preserving some of his energy and just getting the ball up the court and getting into the set. And if you trust Killian to do that, that's even better for Cade to be able to do. So I like it. I think it makes sense. But again, what does that look like in real situations, not just in preseason?
Yep. And I guess, before I let you run here, I did want to be able to get your perspective on, either concerns or kind of some of your biggest likes as it relates to the Pistons so far through training camp in their first 2 preseason games.
I just like the idea that they're experimenting with Asar and putting him in the starting lineup because, as you just said in that little discussion, it gives you some versatility to do some other things. And maybe it's not Killian all the time. Maybe it is Asar who's bringing the ball up with Cade playing off the ball a little bit more. And we saw some of that in Summer League, and they tried to keep the ball out of his hands a little bit. But then you started to see more and more that he could handle that role. Now, when you get to it, it's one thing in Summer League. It's another thing when you get to your Patrick Beverleys and your ball hawking defensive guards, whether he's still going to be able to maintain that. But I think they're in a position to try a lot of different things and not just stick to Cade bringing the ball up the court 100% of the time. I think it is a good thing to experiment, to try something different and see what happens with that stuff.
Yep, and I love it. One of the things that I love that, actually. I love that take because those are things that we speculated about when we kind of got more into who Asar Thompson is, when we started hearing Coach Monty really talk about who and what he likes about Killian Hayes. That type of stuff was like, okay, they are going to actually bring into this offense a little bit more of what he did with the Phoenix Suns, rather than kind of keep things in a more comfortable, more familiar role that Cade Cunningham might have been used to his first one in like a blip of a season. And that to me shows, a lot of people talk about Tom Gores just running things from behind the scene or Troy Weaver's forcing this and forcing that. I don't think that's the case. Even with the 2 big system, I'm believing that might have been more something that maybe Casey wanted, and that Troy Weaver was trying to do his best as a GM to try and make sure that Casey's system had the players that fit within it. Now we see Monty Williams here, and we hear, hey, we're not doing it. We're going to move away from 2 big system. We're going to actually try this type of offense. We're going to try and put Cade Cunningham in these roles. We're going to try and test some things, stress some things, and see what team we are and what we're actually made of. And I see really Troy Weaver being in a position to help, to kind of augment, to kind of say, hey, what do you need to succeed? And that especially when you bring in a Monty Williams, that's really what I want out of Troy Weaver as a general manager. My only concern, and I don't even know how much of a concern it is, because we haven't really seen these guys comfortable on the court and all together. It's just, I know a lot of people are talking about the first half defense. And I'm like, well, they played against the Phoenix Suns, who I think every time this season, they're going to blitz them. Even if our defense was where we wanted to be, they're going to get blitzed. Monty Williams talked about it a little bit, and I'm going to try and cut that clip up for the next episode, where he talked about, I want to be better off the gates, but these guys are learning, they're learning. There's different places that they're being put in, different stresses that's going on them. And it's not like they just started preseason against a team that they're evenly matched up with. They started preseason against a team where you and I watched that game together, man. There were some bright moments out of Isaiah Stewart defending Kevin Durant, out of Asar Thompson defending everybody. I went back. It wasn't just Devin Booker. It was Bradley Beal. It was switching on to Kevin Durant. It was sometimes going down the hedging to defend the center and then getting back to his guy. And he talked about that too. Like, I got to be quicker at that. It was, I want to see better as they go along. But since they're with a new coach, learning new terminology, learning new sets, learning new aspects of defense and offense. I
Mhm.
give them just a little bit of a break. And those younger players, the scrappy players kind of coming off the bench, I don't believe that is that they were more scrappy than the starters, but that the philosophy that Monty Williams is instilling, our bench, I think it fits. When you're playing up against other bench guys, it allows for, I believe, the more what would you call it? The team that's kind of closer to the goal, closer to where their coach wants them to be, is going
Yep.
to actually see their results much better than the other squad. And that's what I think we see. I think that the overall plan is really good. The things that we're seeing, and you know how practice is, some parts of it is closed. Man, I got some of that perspective last year at a few. And I don't want to get too much into compare and contrast, but this year, man, goodness gracious, those guys are pushing. Let me just they are they are really being pushed. Let
Yeah.
me just I'll just leave it there. Really being pushed. So Monty Williams is a coach to me that demands, they say he has this aura. And I want to ask some of the players, like, all right, when you first saw him, it was about the aura. Who is Monty Williams now? Yo, are you still? I know that they're happy with him, but how are you feeling about the stress test? And I know Jaden Ivey gave me the most mature and diplomatic answer, but I'm really wanting to see, because I'm sure that with that defense, he did talk about it as well. And I'm sure we're gonna see a little bit better out of it, man. Any other words from you, brother? Any other words from you, brother?
No, that's all I got for you. We'll see some real basketball next week, and we'll be able to preview the season opener, which will be good.
That's going to be awesome, man. You know what? Shout out to my homie Mike Gentry. He covers the Red Wings for us. And he was like, Kool-Aid, Kool-Aid. I was like, what, man? He was like, home opener was so awesome. I was like, man, what was your best part? He looked around. He was like, that pregame buffet spread.
Hey, it might be steaks that night.
He
It
said
might
it
be-
was.
You might be getting steaks on the opener. I might have to pull up and see what's on the menu.
You have to, man. I'm trying to see if they'll let me do some content to highlight that. And I'm gonna try and, if you're there, please be there if they allow that, because you were the kind of the one who brought that awareness to this platform. And I think that it'd be awesome for you to kind of walk the people through what's going on in that Pistons media room. He did say they got steak, they had a carving station, they had salmon. He said they had like seafood, all of it, man. And obviously the Little Caesars, like the best Little Caesars you can get is down in that Pistons media room.
Yep, you got it.
Well, brother, let me get you drum rolled out of here. I'll talk to the people a little bit more about this 10-man rotation and about John Hollinger, man. Any quick word on that? He sees him as at least a 27-win team.
I can see 27. I can
That
see
was
27.
nicer than I thought it would be from a national pundit. And he said, you know, Cade can kind of tip the balance one way or the other. So
That's
let me
it.
get you drum rolled
That's
out
it.
of here, brother. You were on fire today, man. This was a pinky up, pinky up Wednesday. Rod was in his bag today, man. But you guys already know what time it is. Let's get him drum rolled out. Hey, yo! Shout out to the legend Detroit News, Rod Beard, brother. I hope you have a great rest of your day, man, and blessings to you and your family and all your endeavors. That's the chief.
Appreciate you, bro.
As always, man. Thank you, brother.
All right. We'll talk.
Yes, sir. All right, you guys. Look, we got a little bit more that I want to kind of cover, man. Let me see if this came in the right way. Come on. Come on. Let me see if I can get this rotated for you all. I don't know why it came in this way, but you know what? I'll still leave it up there just so you guys can see it in some aspect, way, or shape, or form. But John Hollinger talking about the Detroit Pistons and giving his assessment of who they are and where they will land this season. Now, he had some interesting things to say about Cade Cunningham as well. But he has the Detroit Pistons as a 27-55 overall team. The Pistons went big on coaching change this offseason to grab Monty Williams and have a healthy Cade Cunningham back and an athletic lottery pick in Asar Thompson. Alas, that's about where the good news ends. My raw numbers, mind you, that's the key thing. My raw numbers rate this as the league's worst roster. While those figures almost certainly shortchange Cunningham based on his struggles last fall, it doesn't get much better even if you put your finger on the scale. Now, I actually, if you're gonna just look at the raw numbers, yeah, I understand that. I get that. They won 17 games last year. Cade Cunningham started. Some people would say slow, 26-6. I guess that's slow. If that's slow for him, I can't wait till average or mediocre Cade Cunningham, right? Because he ended the season, his last 3 or 4 games, averaging about 26, 27 points a game, 7 assists, 6 rebounds, some steals, and like a block a game. That was Cade Cunningham. If he can effectively be that guy, that's going to be more than putting your finger on the scale. John Hollinger rating this just on the pure numbers. It's not really taking into effect that the season before, in Cade's rookie season, check this out. Cade Cunningham, right? Rookie Cade, a half a season of Marvin Bagley, of half-baked Bagley season, and effectively, Jeremy Grant, who I believe Asar Thompson is Jeremy Grant light. That was the main cogs. Obviously, we got some good contributions throughout the season from people like Sadiq Bey and Killian Hayes, but not until you had that trio all together just before the All-Star game. They smacked the Boston Celtics. You can go back and look at the box scores from Cade's rookie season. And in games that Cade Cunningham played in, they were 10 and 14 in that second half of the season. That, to me, is where you really need to start to actually have your data take off, because basing it off last season is not going to be it. And that's why I'm actually, based on his numbers, he said that they're the worst roster, but based on his record, he said 27-55. Why? Because it's more than just the numbers, and it's a lot more that meets the eyes than just this. There's a lot of people this year who are kind of down on Jaden Ivey. There's a lot of people this year who think he's not going to be exactly what he showed last year. There's a lot of people who are down on Isaiah Stewart. There's a lot of people who are, in my opinion, discounting what Jalen Duren can be. And there's a lot of people, in my opinion, who are discounting kind of the depth, because we haven't really seen it. We haven't seen Monty Morris. We haven't seen Bojan Bogdanovic. Those 2 players alone add so much more to this rotation, which we'll get into in a little bit, this 10-man rotation that Monty Williams said he wants to run. But as it looks there, the 27 wins falls right in line with what Vegas is saying, 28.5 over and under. I believe that this Pistons team, and I've seen other people online, they started, when they saw John Hollinger say this, they started saying, okay, we can see 27-32 wins. I want to see this team, in terms of what I want to see them do, is 30. The expectation or gauntlet that I want to throw out there, because I want to make it clear, is 35 wins. That doesn't mean that I believe that this is a 35-win team. I am not predicting the Detroit Pistons, to win 35 games. What I'm saying is that should be the gauntlet. If you were talking about, has this team kind of materialized and taken full advantage of how high their ceiling could be this season, 35 wins. Will I be disappointed if they get 27? I will. Anything under 30 will be a little bit of a disappointment, unless barring catastrophic injury. That's the only way that I say, you know what, scrap the year. And even then, moving forward, it's not necessarily something that I believe saves, people's jobs or allows people to just kind of wink an eye again. I think that it begins then people to just send the vultures in. Not that that's something I will do or not do, but it allows people to just absolutely send the vultures in after Troy Weaver, after this rebuild and everything of that nature. But one of the main components that I really like about this rebuild, and I've had this conversation with a couple people last night on Twitter, and I'll rehash that on one of these half episodes we've been doing lately. We've been kind of going into the morning Woodward show, getting on with Jeff, and we're going to talk about a few of these things. What I look at when I look at how the job that Troy Weaver's doing, he came into this job saying, look, this is going to be a 4 to 5 year rebuild. Off rip. Now, as a man, you know what I'm saying? As a businessman, as a woman, no matter what you are, when you're in a position where you are working, when you're in a position where you're putting your word out there, when we accept that in the beginning, that's something personally that I like to see kind of finish out. My first season on the beat was, we covered it kind of from the studio my first season. My second season was Troy's second season as well. That's where I actually got to get on and ask questions, things of that nature. He's been true to a T. There's some audio that I shared at Detroit Kool-Aid on Twitter. I'll try and also get it up on YouTube a little bit later and at some of the other platforms. But there's some things where he said straight up what the plan was, and he's been true to that. And he even admitted, listen, last year was not, like I said to Rod earlier, what we expected. Not at all. But when you look at this core 4 and you zoom out from the individual moves, like people got crazed over and ready to riot when he traded Jeremy Grant to Milwaukee for the 25th pick. I told people he was going to get a lottery pick in return for Jeremy Grant because he's not going to sell short. When that 25th pick came, Rod texts Jeff, myself, and other people, and we text Sean from Half Court and others, hey, just sit tight. Don't overreact. There's something else on the way, because this deal was effectively one big deal, but it had to happen piece by piece. And what did that 25th pick turn into? A lottery pick. It turned into Jalen Duren plus a look at 5 other players. And people say, oh, they helped out the Knicks. No. He's looking to upgrade this core. You usually can hold about 3 to 4 young players that you absolutely believe in. The first core, and this is what I judge it on. The first core was Killian Hayes, right? Sadiq Bey, Isaiah Stewart, and Saben Lee. All right. As they continue to go, Cade Cunningham the next season, he steps right into that. And obviously, Saben Lee now is pushed out of that core. Saben Lee was wound up being traded as well. Cleared the deck for Killian Hayes to be able to go out in his 3rd year and do what he does. When you draft a Jalen Duren, you talk about core 4 and an Asar Thompson. Let's compare this now. Killian, Sadiq, Isaiah Stewart, and Saben Lee was the first core 4 when you're talking about rebuilding foundationally. The new core 4 is Cade Cunningham, Asar Thompson, Jaden Ivey, and Jalen Duren, with players like Isaiah Stewart and Isaiah Livers and Marvin Bagley and James Wiseman, who are still relatively young, who were former 2nd overall picks and things of that nature, and Marcus Sasser. You know, so core 4 to core 4, Troy Weaver has done exactly what he was supposed to do. That's upgraded to make sure that this base can be properly augmented around. That's why it's important for them to see. And Troy Weaver said this. I put it up on Detroit Kool-Aid Twitter already. He already stated that they are effectively just waiting to see what Monty Williams can do with this team. Now, to me, if I have to speculate, I believe that that means that some of the young players are kind of on the chopping block, that some of the young players are going to be looked at, because the veterans you can always move off of. And how you augment this team with your cap space and the young players that you have to pay coming up very, very soon, that to me means that some people are going to be moved who are currently either a part of the core or are a part of kind of the secondary aspect of the core. You know, you got Isaiah Stewart, you got Isaiah Livers, you got Marcus Sasser, you got Monte Morris, you got some of these guys, you got Bagley, you have Wiseman. Decisions are going to be made. But overall, how I'm judging Troy Weaver to this point is based on how that first core 4 looked versus how it looks right now, with the ability to go with movable assets, right? They got movable assets in Bojan and Alec Burks and Monte Morris, and some of the young players they have too. Bagley's going to be a movable asset. You telling me that the Lakers right now wouldn't take Bagley? There are teams right now that need a big who can just come off the bench and kind of be that Corliss, man. For the Pistons, though, Corliss was that deal off the bench. But I can see Bagley being one of these complimentary players that comes off the bench and they know, bro, we're not really looking for you. You know, we wish you could defend, but we know you can come in real quick and give us, 15 and 6. Go out there and just do that. And he's slimmed down, he's nimble. I'm not advocating for them to be traded, but obviously there are things that are going to happen this season. And it honestly behooves Troy Weaver to say, you know what, with a new coach who's been known to get things out of people, why would I just go out there before we know what a Killian Hayes truly is and just trade him? Maybe if you're going to trade a Killian Hayes, or if you're going to keep a Killian Hayes, you wait to see what you have. He's given himself this first half of the season, and that's the only thing that kind of worries me about my expectation of 35 wins. That means it's going to put a lot of pressure on this team in the second half of the season, because the first half is going to be chemistry. First half is going to be trying to figure things out and getting things together. First half is going to be learning and playing that NBA defense, because now teams are gearing up and gunning. And it's going to be potentially a shakeup of the roster, just like the first season of Cade Cunningham. When they went and they played, wasn't very pretty. Then they traded for Marvin Bagley, and we saw semblance. We had hope. Y'all go back to that first year under Cade Cunningham's direction as point guard. And at the end of that season, we had a Killian Hayes that we were hopeful for. We had a Cade Cunningham that we were hopeful for. And then injury set in. That second season, Bagley got hurt in preseason. Cade Cunningham got hurt after the 12th game. Isaiah Stewart got hurt within the first 15 games and jammed his toes up. And he wound up missing games there. He wound up missing games because of his shoulder later in the season. Bojan Bogdanovic was really hurt. Obviously, they gave him some extra time to rest due to the tank on. It was just a full-on tank at a certain point in time. And those things have to matter, guys, when we're talking about these Detroit Pistons and the expectations that they should place even on themselves. Go out there and be better. So that was something to me that was kind of interesting, kind of key overall. And I think that as it relates to what this squad ultimately can be, is going to come down to who they are um, within that core four, that new core four. That's your nucleus right there. Everything else, in my opinion, is movable. Not necessarily expendable, but movable. This team has to get better, and that's only going to happen by how they get rid of some of these assets, bring in some more draft capital, which Troy Weaver has done. Whether they've had a high pick or not, he has picked it multiple times in the first round throughout his tenure here. I believe all his seasons here, except for the Cade Cunningham year, he picked multiple first-round draft picks. That's a restore, man. That's definitely bringing talent to the table. And so it's funny, you got Piston fans who, on one hand, they're like, I don't like the way this is going, but then on the other hand, they're like, but I like the core. That's the point. That's the purpose of it. Now, if Troy goes out here this season, barring catastrophic injury, if he goes out here this season and doesn't properly augment them, doesn't really try anything, runs back the lineup even if it's not winning, then that's when we start to say, we thought that he would have went and tried to look for another four, whether that's off the bench or starting, that can actually hold down the paint, rim protect a little bit, and stretch the floor. People were a little bummed when he passed on Cam Johnson. People were a little bummed when he didn't take, some people were like, man, maybe he should have made a bigger run for Jeremy Grant. So I want to see what he does with this cap space on the way. I believe that it is Troy Reaper season, and if he starts with this trade, getting Alec Burks over to Houston and bringing in any type of draft capital, then I know that he's already working. It's not just a notion of the second half of the season, but it could be a notion of Monty Williams talking about 10-man rotation, and we'll end on that, the 10-man rotation. I want to ask you guys, who is your 10-man rotation? Who do you guys want to see kind of in that? Because at first I thought he was going to run kind of a tight 8-man rotation with a couple players that can fill in here and there when need be. Foul trouble. Maybe somebody is just kind of hot from three, had a hot week in practice, and he knows he can go to them. Maybe you got a point guard who's just not feeling it that day, and you need to go to maybe your third point guard off the bench. But just to go through this roster real quick of the players that will be considered underneath that 10-man rotation that could be considered for Marvin Bagley, Bojan Bogdanovic, Alec Burks, Cade Cunningham, Jalen Duren, Joe Harris, Killian Hayes, Jaden Ivey, Isaiah Livers, Monte Morris, Isaiah Stewart, and Asar Thompson, as well as James Wiseman. So obviously we got a problem there because that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, 9, 10, 11, and 12, and 13. So 3 people are going to find themselves on the outside of this thing. I don't know who that's going to be. Obviously, we know that there's a big matchup battle between Bagley and Wiseman. Whoever probably loses that, I wouldn't be surprised if that was the one that was considered more expendable, but they've both made it tough to decide. James Wiseman came out that second game and really went to work. So I don't know. Like, it's a tough one. Who do you guys believe that the 10-man rotation will eventually shake out to? Obviously, Isaiah Livers is starting the season off injured. So right now, you would have to consider him on the outside of that 10-man rotation. One of James Wiseman and Marvin Bagley will probably be considered outside of that 10-man rotation. I believe Joe Harris has to play. I don't know where this leaves necessarily Monte Morris, who we haven't gotten a look at, or Marcus Sasser. I believe that Marcus Sasser is somebody who's proven that he got that dog. He has that dog. Shout out to him and that Team Jordan apparel deal that he just got as well. I believe that man has to be on the active roster, like that 10th guy that you can go to if you need. I believe that he's proven that he could potentially be a little bit better, but with how much Monty Williams has just kind of unprovokedly talked about Killian Hayes, I don't know if it's because he really, really high on him as it relates to playing him, or if they're trying to make sure that his name is getting out there into the media so that other people could understand that he might be something that you want to trade for. Like I said, Troy Weaver and this organization has been really, really good at making sure that their players are valuable both on the roster or in a trade. And if not, you usually see them just kind of wave those guys and keep it moving. With Killian Hayes, though, being your first draft pick, I can understand wanting that to either work out for you here or finding a way to at least get a low-level first round or a couple second-round picks if you can coax it. if you can coax it. And I believe that that's what they're openly and actively trying to do with this whole entire roster. They want this roster to be good before they ever even talk about trades, because trading with a bad roster doesn't get you anything back. So they want these guys to be good. They're putting in a lot of investment. I see Monty Williams after all of the practices, going to all of the different position groups and working with these guys individually, checking in on their progress like any coach would. I'm not saying that this is better than anybody else, but I know that Monty Williams is caring for these players, man. We talk about it, and you could see even in the clip with Jaden Ivey, I don't believe he thought he was going to create the firestorm that he did. I really believe that he thought people would say, oh, great, Monty Williams is coming in. He's putting his foot down, laying the law down. He's pushing these players to be better. He's putting them in stressful situations to see how they respond, and look at how they're doing it. That's what I believe Monty Williams thought. And in his clip about Jaden, he's like, yo, I haven't even declared starting lineups yet. So look, I'm going to wrap this one up now. I'm going to be back, I said, as well with some more content this week. Shout out Sean Murphy from Half Court. We're going to get Kool-Aid and Murph jumping off this week, man. You'll be able to find it right here, as well as on the Believe Network, as well as Mr. Jeff, Iyer, Freddie, and I, man. We're going to try and wrap on the Morning Woodward Show, as well as we'll be back in these seats soon. Soon I'll have my Pistons banner up there too, but right now the Lions mojo is the Lions mojo, man. You can't really diss that right now. So I'm glad that the Lions are doing their thing. I hope they continue it, man. I want them to go out there and shut down the Baltimore Ravens like I know all you guys want to. But listen, I need you guys to do a few things for me, man. In the comments, definitely tell me about your 10-man rotation. Tell me who you think is on the outside of that. If you believe that there are some moves that you think and believe Troy Weaver needs to make to better this squad, let me know. And give me your season prediction. John Hollinger has set his at 27-55. I actually think that that's a lot nicer. And he said it too. The numbers say it's the worst roster, but these guys know something a little bit more. That these guys on this team are a little bit better than their last year's record. So I appreciate you guys, all you all who stuck around this long. Like I said, we got some more content on the way. I'm grateful for you all, and Woodward Sports has some cool things on the way. So definitely tap in with all of our main shows, man. And shout out to my guys. I got to shout them out, man, from Mike Gentry, our Red Wings beat reporter, Matthew Broder, our Detroit Lions beat writer, as well as our sales team, man, Brady Wood, Griffin Lackey, those guys, man, they do a ton behind the scenes. They remind me of Jeff. He still does a lot behind the scenes too, missed everything. But I just want to make sure these guys get their flowers, as well as what I call the genius room. Ryan Lentz, Noah Walbrecht, these guys, man, in terms of what they do video-wise, graphic-wise, for all of Woodward Sports, man, all of our templates and things of that nature that we're able to go and use. Shout out to those guys. Really good people, man. Really good people. And you already know, check in all of our shows, man. Morning Woodward Show, Big D Energy, Armani and Edwards, Woodward Heavyweights, and Woodward Nights, man. Check in with all of those shows, man. Shout out to my bro Lucas. Get better soon, brother. We can't wait to have you back. All right, man. Love y'all. Blessings. Go Pistons. Go Lions. Go Wings. Tigers. Let's go Tigers too, But till next time, you all.